Brilliance Audio presents The Wrong End of the Table, a mostly comic memoir of a Muslim Arab-American woman just trying to fit in, by Ayser Salman, foreword by Reza Aslan, performed by the author and Asaf Cohen.
For anyone who's ever been at the wrong end.
Forward. 20 years ago, you had to search for memoirs written by Middle Eastern Americans. That changed after 9/11, when anyone remotely reminiscent of anything Arabic was thrust into the spotlight. Social media came along, and with that, a whole new playing field where anyone from any background could tell their stories. It wasn't vanity. It was our duty. Middle Eastern Americans make up just over 3% of the nation's population. Muslim Americans, of all races, make up 1%. Yet you wouldn't realize it by how much we occupy the mainstream American psyche. We were compelled to correct the narrative. Today, as the Trump administration continues to push through an unprecedented degree of anti-Muslim measures, Islamophobia has grown. But so has the response from Muslim and Middle Eastern communities. In record numbers across the country, Muslims are registering to vote and taking to the streets in peaceful protest. Not only that, they're running for office, because the best protection under a democracy is to actually participate in it. And yet, despite all that, you still have to search to find meaningful stories that depict Muslims as anything other than potential terrorist threats. Even as civic engagement of Muslim Americans rises, the media itself has failed in keeping up. In both news and entertainment, Muslims are still presented as one-dimensional, rather than the complex and relatable characters that we really are. Which brings us to Ayser Salman, a Muslim American who was born in Iraq, raised in Saudi Arabia and Kentucky, and has worked as a writer, producer, and editor in Hollywood for the past 20 years. If anyone represents the convergence of the issues going around Hollywood today, it would be her. Pick up a Muslim American memoir these days, and you'll find that it typically tackles one of three subjects: political oppression in the Middle East, Islamophobia in the West, or renegotiating the East-West convergence of tradition and modernity. For many, faith is a core component of the writer's identity. But it's important to remember that Islam itself is not just merely a tradition. It's also a platform that helps us critically engage in the social issues that drive current events today. And what of those stories where faith isn't as domineering? To be a secular Muslim is just as valid as being a religious one. And to find your identity more in your experience as an immigrant is just as compelling as finding it through spiritual awakening. To put it plainly, our story should not be of Muslims who happen to live in America. They should be of Americans who happen to come from Muslim backgrounds. Which is what makes The Wrong End of the Table such an insightful and enjoyable read. Through her own life story, Ayser Salman uses her experiences to distill not just Islam, but also the impact religion and culture have on how we interact and understand the world around us. What emerges is that rare voice that is both relatable and unafraid to examine the complexities of her American identity as a minority, an immigrant, and a woman. Reza Aslan, #1 New York Times bestselling author of Zealot, The Life and Times of Jesus of Nazareth.
All of the situations in this memoir are mostly true. Some are extremely exaggerated, but I'm honest when that happens. All names have been changed to protect the innocent, except for my immediate family and 2 of the men I dated. Preface. With thanks and apologies to Mom. My mother has been telling me I'd be a great storyteller since I was a child. She's thrilled I'm finally listening to her after all these years and have written this book. I want to thank her for her support. But there are also a few things in this book Mom might not be happy about. You know that feeling of being at the wrong end of the table? Like you're at a fabulous party, but all the good stuff is happening just out of earshot, and you're there desperately trying to contribute and connect, but you're too far away? Nowadays, they call it FOMO, or fear of missing out. But I've always known it as LAAI, life.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?